What happens when a people want to keep everything for themselves? How do you control a society when trusting someone's word is no longer enough? And what does all this have to do with laws, war, and even the passage of time? Welcome to the most intense part of the origins of history, because in Mesopotamia, progress didn't just bring wealth, it also brought conflict.
The Iron Age. The development of trade created a lot of wealth, and the accumulation of this wealth created a lot of power. But trade was not the only way to obtain wealth and power.
I'm not going to trade for this money. I'm just going to take it.
Invading a territory and taking the wealth of others is how the first wars developed. Over the course of centuries, those peoples that had the best armies were the ones that could possess the greatest wealth. Powerful armies could take by force all that was within their reach, especially gold, silver, and other precious metals. These invaders also captured the inhabitants of the settlements they invaded, forcing them to work as slaves. One such invader was a king called Sargon, who led the people of Akkad. Under the command of their ambitious king, the Akkadians came down from the mountains in the north of Mesopotamia and by the year 2370 BC, managed to conquer all the Sumerian cities. And so it was that Sargon was the first king in history to create an empire.
I win! I'm the greatest!
But when the heirs of Sargon died, the empire fell, and the land was divided for many centuries. Until the Assyrians came along. They formed an incredibly powerful army around 1000 BC and managed to conquer and control the entire region. The Assyrians had amazing war chariots and an army of both infantry and cavalry. But their greatest advantage was when they learned to make weapons out of iron, which were stronger and harder than everyone else's bronze weapons. And this gave the Assyrians a huge advantage. Words that are spoken are soon lost to the wind. But if you were to write those words down, then they have some permanence. Writing is a way to put thoughts and ideas into physical form. When you write something down, it lasts for anyone to read. It is the writing of ancient peoples that give historians the best picture of the thoughts and ideas of these people who lived so long ago. As the concept of writing developed, it served to record ways of life and express ideas and thoughts. The ancient Mesopotamians didn't have paper to write on, so they mixed certain minerals with water to make clay, which they put into molds. When the clay was soft, they could write on it. Then the clay was baked in ovens, turning it hard and making the writing permanent. The marks made on these tablets were made by nails or wedges, or cuneus in Latin. So this type of writing was called cuneiform. In the year 1692 BC, a king named Hammurabi united the kingdom of Babylon and decided that laws had to be not just written, but engraved in stone. He thought that if the laws were in the open for everyone to see, then people would be better able to understand them and determine if someone was guilty or innocent. A huge basalt stone with 282 laws was engraved. These laws were to be followed by everyone in the kingdom and made up the first law code in history. The basic principle of the Code of Hammurabi was an attempt to make everything fair. If someone wronged someone else, they were punished, and punished in a way that fit the crime they committed. In other words, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth.
An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Do you think this kind of law is fair? Yes or no? Write it in the comments. I want to see what you think.
Let's dig a little deeper with our time compass and find out about the history of tools. Homo habilis, which means skillful man, appeared in Africa about 2 million years ago. This ancestor to humans was the first to make tools from sticks and stones. This was the beginning of the Stone Age. 1 million years later, Homo habilis had evolved into Homo erectus, which means upright man. Homo erectus made better tools, built simple shelters, and learned how to use fire. Just 15,000 years ago, bows and arrows were used for the first time, with points made of bone or stone. Then the first tools and weapons made of metal were made in Mesopotamia about 7,000 years ago. These were made from the soft metal called copper. About 5,000 years ago, the inhabitants of Mesopotamia discovered that if they melted copper in ovens and mixed it with another soft metal called tin, they could make a much stronger metal. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the beginning of the Bronze Age. But it doesn't end there, because there's another very strong metal called iron. This metal needs very high temperatures in order to make it into anything. And nobody at that time knew how to do this. Eventually, people figured out a technique to melt iron about 3,000 years ago. And with this discovery, stronger weapons and more efficient tools were made. The Iron Age had arrived.
So, between wars, laws, and technological advances, Mesopotamia became the center of the ancient world. But there was still something more, something that wasn't built with stone or iron, but with ideas. Because in these lands, the first stories were also born, the first gods, and humanity's first great hero, Gilgamesh. And if you want to discover that world, don't miss the next video, because history is just getting started.
Of all the cities I've visited in Mesopotamia, the most famous and strongest is Babylon.
The ancient city of Babylon was home to one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. A series of gardens were built on the walls in such a way that, when seen from a distance, they appeared to be floating in air. This wonder was called the Hanging Gardens of Babylon.
And remember, everything is amazing when you have the desire to learn.